seat. Where's running tomorrow? Okay, the law has your package. I'm a mule today. I'm carrying all kinds of things. So see the law for
I give it to you.
what you already have. All right, let's take a moment of silence. Homage and prostrations to Satguru, who is Brahma and the giver of supreme bliss, who is Satpurush, the embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vaster than the sky, infinite, eternal, beyond all time, space, and causality, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the destroyer of darkness and the bestower of light, the supreme preceptor, Namo Guru Vaya. Shake your mind. Today we're going to explore and hopefully profit from a consideration of the Ashtavakra Gita. Many of you in here are by now familiar with the scripture, so I won't have to give you too much background on the scripture itself. There's all kinds of literature that you can access and find out more about this particular scripture. These scriptures, bear in mind, are to be looked upon as gifts bequeathed to us by those adepts and realizers from the past. Those of you who have considered the Patahotep Sutras, there's a brief introductory remark there in the book that speaks of how the Patahotep Sutra, as well as all of these other Gitas and Sutras, are to be looked upon as the children of these great realizers. They're heirs, if you will, you see, and therefore it is their gift to you. I oftentimes talk about the fact that we are each other's gift to one another. These priests and adepts, particularly and ancient Kemet, they considered their scriptures their family, their children, their palate, their son, their pen, their wife, you see. And so when you read these scriptures, it's very useful to appreciate the place in their heart where they had their origins, you see. So this is a kind of manifestation of love, you see, and so forth and so on. This particular scripture, Gita means song, because in ancient times, knowledge was transmitted orally and not simply in the form of discourses and so forth and so on. It wasn't quite that structured. It was couched into a melody, into a song, because it was easy to remember something when it has a melody to it. You all know that from personal experiences. So remembering the Gita wasn't, it's in a sense no more difficult than remembering a song. And so in that sense, it was able to be preserved over vast stretches of time, you see. All of us here learned songs when we were children. We could still sing them because we have that melody, and the content is buried in the melody. Well, that strategy is ancient, you see. So the Gita is a song being sung about attaining ultimate knowledge, that knowledge that leads to liberation. So today we're kind of loose. I'll try to not take up all of your beautiful Sunday afternoon. Thank God we have a cutoff time, so that should be easy to do. A few things more about this particular sutra that we're going to be exploring today. Of all of the various scriptures or Gitas that is associated with Hindu culture, so forth and so on, it is in my humble opinion that the Ashtavakra Gita, the Mahagita, the great Gita, stands heads and shoulders above the rest. Don't mean to diminish the rest. Certainly there's much wisdom that has come down through the ages in the form of other Gitas. You're familiar with some of them, I'm sure, the Bhagwan Gita and so forth and so on. But in many of these scriptures, there's a lot of metaphysics mixed in, cosmology and so forth and so on. And there's every possibility that one can get lost in that stuff, you see. In the Ashtavakra Gita, you're not going to find any cosmology. Nobody's going to be discussing the different regions and all of that. In the Ashtavakra Gita, it cuts straight through. It is pure Vedanta, pure Gyan, okay? So because of that, it has been celebrated and glorified as the Gita of all Gitas, you see. And again, keep in mind the purpose of these scriptures and sutras that we explore on this occasion, as well as hopefully on future occasions, the purpose of all of this is simply to establish you in the right view, you see. In India, there's 6 schools of philosophy. I'm not going to go into all of that. But in each of these schools, the Samkhya, the Yogacara Buddhism, the Nyaya, and so forth and so on, Vedanta is one of those schools. But Vedanta, like the rest of those schools, have one aim, is to establish us, the readers of those sutras, in the right view, to diminish that ignorance that is the basis of all of our unhappiness and suffering. Every sutra tells us all the same thing. You are suffering because you are ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of who and what you are. This is the basis of your suffering, you see? And they then go on to try to present an argument to somehow or another help you become established in the right view. Those who are familiar with the Yogacara Buddhism understand that in Buddha's methodology, his sampradaya, his system, the first step is right view. You have to have the right view. You see. If you're trying to do something like spirituality with the wrong view of yourself, you're not going to make any progress. In fact, quite the opposite will happen. You're going to come out of that enterprise completely deluded, you see. Or worse, or equal to delusion, is you'll simply become a scholar. You follow me? And that is all. But remember, scholarship is not enlightenment, you see? So all of these various systems, including Santmat, you see, is initially aiming to establish us in the right view of who and what you are. And so this Ashtavakra Gita is one of those scriptures that aims to do that, and it does it in a way that is head and shoulders above many, many other scriptures and sutras that you can read and reflect on that is available in the Hindu culture. And so I don't want to, however, give you the impression that only Hindu culture has produced these great things. This is a product that you will find in all of the great cultures of the world, okay? So far, so good? All right. So now, Rani Kumari, if you will read for me, you might want to get over here so the law can get you, pull a chair, or you can get, oh, there's a seat available, you can sit right there. You want to sit on the floor? Maybe a minute. It's all right, as long as you're comfortable. And that's hopefully will, everybody has copies of this, everybody have copies? Who don't have copies? You all didn't get the email with the link to download this? Okay, so maybe if you can sit with somebody, get kind of close. There's an extra one. Here's somebody, bring it over. Well, let's have a little chaos for a minute to make sure that everybody have something they can follow along with. And of course, Rani Kumari will read so that the ahata you can listen and follow along. All right. So she's your personal fancy. Okay. Anytime you want to use, just give me a call. Okay. All right. Any time of day or night. So we'll just kind of follow along. And again, the key to this all is just listen. So I won't be really addressing too many of your questions as we go through that. I'll save some time for that. But these particular kinds of sutras are to be listened to. Just listen. Open mind and open heart, you see. And if you are listening, then the ideal of behind hearing these sutras is that through that listening, slowly you will become established in the right view. And remember, I said right view. I didn't say you're going to become enlightened. So let's get this straight, because a lot of you are under a wrong presumption that you think just by reading this kind of stuff, you're going to become enlightened. You're not going to become enlightened. What will happen if you are doing it correctly with the right attitude, that slowly you will begin to change your self-concept, you see. And the Siva Sutras, this transformation from a wrong view of self to a right view of self is called the Shuddha Vikapa, you see. Instead of continue living your life operating out of a wrong view of yourself, you will have an opportunity to start living your life operating out of a right view, a right mental concept. It all starts on the mental plane. So that's the first phase of Gyan. It's intellectual. But intellectual clarity is not enlightenment, okay? And so don't get that twisted, okay? All right, good. Now, I'm going to try to the best of my ability to do justice to this singing part. I am not a trained Swami. My Sanskrit is mediocre at best, but nevertheless, I will sing a little bit of the slokas, and then I will leave it to Rani Kumari to read the English transliteration of the Sanskrit, okay? So, with that said, let us begin. Janaka Uvaka, that means Janaka says. Janaka Uvaka, Katin Janama Noti Katamuti Bravasiti. Paragyam Kakatam Pratam Ita Bruni Mama Pabru. Sing it one more time. Katam Jana Mavapanati Katamuti Gai Brisvisyati Paragyam Kakatam Pratam Ita Brumi Mama Pabru. Rani Kumari.
Janaka says, how is knowledge to be acquired? How is liberation to be attained? And how is dispassion to be reached? Tell me this, sir.
Beautiful. Beautiful. The first thing that you will notice in this sutra is that it's going to be a dialogue between Ashtavakra and Janaka. And Janaka starts off by asking Ashtavakra Mundi the most important questions, you see. He is not starting off with a frivolous question. You can tell the quality of his mind, his heart, his sincerity, and so forth and so on. This is a high disciple. This is a high-class seeker. He's not asking silly questions. In the Bhagavad Gita, look, Krishna points out to the readers of the sutra that there are certain questions that you don't even ask a guru, because those questions have no significance whatsoever, you see. So Janaka is not asking a superficial question. He's not asking how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. He's not asking any kind of question about cosmology. He's not asking about social issues and politics. He's not asking Ashtavakra any personal questions about his life, because none of that means shit, you see. He's asking the most important question. You see. Katam nanamava poti. He's asking, how is knowledge acquired? You see. And remember, Janaka is a king. Now try to imagine Barack Obama never having to lose office for the rest of his life. That kind of power is the kind of power that Janaka possessed, you see. Well educated, you see. And that is not knowledge, you see. He's not asking about that kind of knowledge. There are different kinds of knowledge, you see, beloved, you see. There's a kind of knowledge that you can get from inference, you see, and the Mimatsma system of philosophy. Just mentioned there are 6 systems of philosophy in Hindu culture. Mamatsya is one of them, and that's a system based on logic. You know, they talk about knowledge, epistemology, and things of that nature. So there's different kinds of knowledge. There is knowledge that can come to you by comparison, you see. That's not the knowledge Janaka is speaking about. There's a kind of knowledge you can get from inference. You know, you infer something. That's not the kind of knowledge that Janaka is asking to be given, you see. The kind of knowledge that he's asking for is that supreme knowledge, that supreme understanding, you see. So that is the first thing, you see. And he's asking, how is this knowledge to be acquired? Katam amutri bhavasriti. How is liberation to be attained? How is this to be attained? You see? Liberation. He wants liberation. Now remember, he's got palaces for every season of the year. He's got all the power that any human being can have. He got all of that stuff. All the stuff you're trying to get. Janaka had all of that beyond your wildest imagination. He was an Obama. He was a king, all powerful, you see. He had all of what you're trying to get. And he was seeking liberation from all of that. So he had already attained a high level of Gyan, you see. He understood this is not it. This is not it. This is not it. And he wanted to become liberated from this bondage. Can you imagine a king with all that kind of power and wealth feeling that he was in bondage? You see? Utterly profound, you see. Virajyam kankatam pratam. How is this passion to be reached? Tell me this, sir. So, from that one question, the whole of this Gita begins to unfold. The whole of this Gita, some 20 chapters, I don't know how many verses, probably over a couple hundred for sure. I know in chapter 18 alone, there's 100 verses. So we're not going to go through all of that. That'll take way too long. But I wanted to begin to look at some of this to give you a taste of it, and of course you can go from there. But in any case, the whole of this Gita is a dialogue between Ashtavakra and Janaka with the aim of answering those 3 fundamental questions, you see. How to have this knowledge, how to attain moksha, you see, how to become liberated, how to come out of my bondage, and how is this passion to be reached. Tell me this, sir. Now, I want to break for a minute and Rani Kamarama disturb you, because before we go into Ashtavakra further responses, you have to understand something. Ashtavakra now is going to be giving Janaka a sampradaya, a system. You see, sadhana. You see, you have to understand a lot of those who study Vedas or study Vedanta today, you see, are not Yogeshwar Vedantas. By Yogeshwar Vedantas, I mean the kind of Vedantas that write these scriptures. They're very different. These are just men of intellect who have read scriptures, able to talk about them, but have attained none of this stuff that you're going to be reading in this Gita. You see, they are called Vachakyanis, talking heads. They talk. They have nothing. They're empty inside. They're hollow, you see. You'll find them all over the internet. You see my point? But they have not submitted themselves to the system, you see, to the sampradaya, you see, to the discipline, to the sadhana that really underlies Gyan Yoga. Gyan Yoga is a sadhana. It's not just reading books and coming to your intellectual conclusions about this and that, you see. So keep that in mind. Again, however, it is useful because if you can at least get a good intellectual understanding, that will help you come out of your wrong view into your right view. Are you all following me so far? Okay. There's a lot to say here. In order to enhance your understanding, you have to understand a little bit about the system that Ashtavakra is initiating Janaka into the yoga, the sadhana, okay? And so we will try to say something about that. I think some of you are already familiar with a little bit of it from your cooler groups. Can everybody see this? No, okay. Tell me when. Can you see it now? Can you hear me now? Good. Good. I'm gonna use this chair here. Thank you for that. So, this is the framework in which all of these slokas are being spoken out of. And the first thing is that you're going to hear these slokas. These are the things you're going to hear. It's where you're going to see Ashtavakra beginning to engage Janaka in this process to generate certain kinds of states, okay, to achieve a certain kind of quality of mind. The first one is Vairagya. Something like that, okay? You all are familiar with that? Now, in Ashtanga Yoga, they'll start with Viveka, but actually, the process really starts with Vairagya, dispassion. It starts with dispassion. And you will see that clearly coming up, okay, in the next sloka. But before we go into that next sloka, let me make sure that I get you in the right frame of mind so that you can understand what is taking place here, you see. The first one is Vairagya. That is usually translated as dispassion or detachment. And the difference between the two is moot. But in the tradition, there is Vairagya and Paravairagya. You see, two levels of it, you see. So those two levels are dispassion, detachment, that kind of a thing. Now, I won't get into the nuances and all of that. But Vairagya is usually the first thing you must handle in this process to become dispassionate. You see, dispassionate, becoming dispassionate means you got to deal with your senses and so forth. You'll see this in the next sloka. Okay, so Vairagya. And think about it. Well, let me just read the next sutra, because that'll give us a little bit more momentum here. Mukti mikchaksi chitkata visayam disashachya samaraj avada yataso satyam pityu sava bhava. Ready, Kamari?
If you are seeking liberation, my son, shun the objects of the senses like poison. Practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar.
Acha. So if you are seeking liberation, and remember the question that he asked him, how do you attain what? So he began and addressed it. He said, okay, this is how you attain liberation. Now notice, he didn't say, go get a PhD in philosophy, right? He didn't say a whole bunch of things that comprise our strategies, right? He says that if you want to attain liberation, my son, shun the objects of the senses like poison, you see. Practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness. This shunning of the objects of the senses like poison, that's the first level in practice of Vairagya, you see. And that has to be done, because until you do this, how would you see things as things really are? Your mind will be too clouded from your indulgence and your passions. Are you with me? You know, for instance, like when you are angry, do you see anything clearly?
No.
Right? Or when you are lost in an indulgence, do you see anything clearly? You can't, because you're trapped in that moment. You are distracted. You can't see things clearly, you see? So the first thing is Vairagya, in the sense of shunning the objects of the sense, looking upon them as poison. It's a beautiful sloka. We're going to come back into it, but I wanted to kind of tie that in before we go a little bit further, so that you get a sense of where we're going. So first there's this Vairagya, right? This passion. This passion from the senses, and so forth and so on. Now, when you can do that, you have enough clarity or enough energy, right? Enough purification of mind to develop some of it. Okay. Are you following me? Okay. Because if your mind is focused in on just sensual gratification, you're so locked into that. You follow me? You can't see things. You have no viveka. You have no discrimination. Are you with me? So to get viveka, to get discrimination, you must first change this whole kind of obsession with just the sensual level of gratification. Money, food, sex, bodily comfort, etc., etc. You see, as long as you just carry away with that, you're not going to see things the way things really are. You have no viveka. Okay? I'm getting tired of standing up. I'm getting too old for this. Right? So here, you right, huh? You right. Okay? And so, viveka. Okay. Much more can be said about that, but you've all heard all of those arguments, you see. But I want you to understand that you're trying to cultivate viveka, and you haven't done the first thing. No viveka is going to happen in your case. Are you with me? That's not going to happen for you, you see. There's no Vairagya in you. You follow me? There's no dispassion, you see. So forth and so on. So you got to handle all that business, you see. And then viveka becomes possible for you see. Not to worry, over the course of these 4 workshops or so, I'm going to try to come back through all of this. Today, I'm just trying to establish a framework for you. Then, once that you have viveka, you see, Now remember, this is sadhana, right? In fact, these are, we're going to talk about the 4 sadhanas that comprises the sampradaya of Gyan Yoga, okay? So the next sadhana would be what they call the kat sampatti. You know how to spell that, right? You all just had a Kula meeting on it, if I remember correctly. Right? The kat sampatti, okay? The kat sampatti is another level of the process, you see. Kat means 6, sampatti, you're going to see what that means. You see, that's dealing with developing. Now that you got Vavi, you got to develop some other qualities. All this is about purifying the mind of its ignorance. You see, it's a process by which this is accomplished. It's very systematic, okay? It's very involved, so don't expect us to be able to cover all of this here, you see. People study this sutra for many, many, many years, you see. So it takes a bit of it. But certainly you have these kasampattis. The first one is samma. Okay, samma. Samma means we talked about controlling your senses and so forth and so on. Those are external senses, right? And these external senses certainly have to be overcome, but then there's internal stuff you got to do. Samma. Samma means serenity. It means equanimity. You see? Those, this samma consists of those other things that was in the sloka, you see? Mukti machati chittata. If you're seeking liberation, you see, my son, shun the objects of the senses like poison. That's the external thing. Are you with me? Practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar. You see? That's will give you samma. Samma is the practicing of these qualities of tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar. You see? Samraj avatiyat tansosi satyam piyusava bhaja. He said, practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar. This, like nectar, is interesting, you see, because nectar, ambrosia, that the mystics are talking about, is something you get to kill. It's death. They said bringing death to all of this here. You see, this, if you would practice this, it would lead to the death. So this ambrosia, nectar, is purposed to create death, dying, okay? Not get you high, you follow me? It's the opposite of all of that. And if you will practice these qualities, you see, kasamar rajavada tosha satyam piriyasava bhaja. If you will do this kind of sadhana, you see, then you will get samma. Samma, you see. And why do they call it poison? Because what does poison do? Poison will kill you, right? So the more you indulge in that, and so forth and so on, then it will lead you to death and rebirth. You'll never get out of this cycle of a Bhagwan. Are you with me? It will never end for you, you see. Whereas if you cultivate these other qualities, you see, it will result not only in, like, from a spiritual point of view, but peace of mind. Because think about it, why don't you have any peace of mind? You could rest for a while. I don't want to wear you out. Sit right there, and I'll have you write a minute too. And you can get your notes. I don't want to leave you out if you need them. Okay. You have to understand, why don't you have peace of mind? You see? Because your mind is full of kleshas. You see? Kleshas, disturbances, torment, right? Your mind is full of the wrong kind of vrittis. Vrittis means like waves. The mind is compared to a lake, right? And you could, when a lake is full of turbulence and so forth, it's not placid, it's not calm, it's not peaceful. Vrittis are like waves in the mind, you see? There's sattva vrittis and there's rajasic vrittis. And again, we're getting into some of this terminology. You have to understand, though, that these subject matters have their own terminologies, like any other science and so forth. But these klechas, you see, these kinds of thoughts and emotions that create disturbances, you see, have to be replaced with these positive vrittis, you see, of tolerance, you see, and so forth and so on. So forgiveness, he just doesn't expand the whole list, but Sama will produce all of these things in us, you know, all of the virtues, you see, forgiveness and generosity and kindness and so forth and so on. All of those could just as easily been added to this list. But he's talking to the Janaka, he knows Janaka understands all of this, so he don't have to break it all down like this, okay? And remember, if you can't do these things, you can't be enlightened. That's something you have to really consider. If you don't have the ability to forgive your wife for cheating on you, you can't become enlightened. If you can't forgive your neighbor for his or her trespasses against you, you can't become enlightened. If you find that really difficult, a real struggle, you can't do it. Just can't do it. So he's just not saying these things to be saying them, right? This is what is required. See, this is Gyan Yoga. You see, it's very different from the Vakyanis, very different from the non-dualism that you read and on the internet and so forth and so on. You see, where all you got to do is say Aham Brahmasi and that's it. No, that's not it. That's not even close to it. You see. Tolerance, you see. We'll get back to more of this here, and as you make your notes, as we come to the Q&A, we can really kind of clarify it for you. Again, I'm just trying now to get something up here on the board, because the first meeting is always the most difficult one, because I'm trying to say something here that is very difficult to say. The next thing is Dhamma. You know how to spell Dhamma. That's, again, refers to this earlier sloka, sense control, Dhamma, you see. Sense control, controlling the outer senses again, right? Sama is the inner senses, you see. The inner senses are what they call indriyas. The indriyas. And the outer senses are called the karmendriyas. Don't even have to write all of that. They can look that up. But are you getting a kind of feel for what Ashtavakra is going here? You know, you got to control both. You see, and that is called Dhamma. Okay, that's a quality. You see, the Katsampatis are going to be the 6 qualities you must now cultivate in yourself. You follow me? You must cultivate that. So as you hear Ashtavakra going through these slokas, he's going to be talking to Janaka specifically about him having to do all of this stuff. You know what I mean? If you want to attain knowledge, liberation, dispassion. You see, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do something. You know, you just can't get it through wishful thinking here. You see, you can't hope your way into that state of purity. Work is required. This is what you got to do. So you got to create, he tells Janaka, you have to cultivate Samma. You have to cultivate Dhamma, you see. The next one he would talk about is taticha. Taticha. I'm giving you the system. Taticha. Taticha means endurance. The ability to endure that which is difficult to endure. Because remember, if you can't endure, if you have no endurance, you're not going to make it. You're not even going to be able to do any practice. You have no endurance. You have no perseverance, you see. You must cultivate that quality, that sampati, you know, you must have that. Taticha, endurance, you see. The ability to endure pain and so forth and so on. You simply must have that quality. Again, we're going to unpack these things a little bit more as we go along. Perhaps not today, but certainly somewhere down the road. The next one is uparti. Uparti. That's usually translated as renunciation. Now, renunciation is, again, not to be confused so much with viragya. It's a higher species of it, you know. When you are detaching from the senses and all of that, that is a certain kind of renunciation. But then there's a greater aspect to renunciation. This is uparti. You see, uparti is renouncing the pursuit of happiness within the realm of conditional reality. This is uparti. You see, you must have that. Are you with me? You can understand if you're still hell-bent on your pursuit for finding happiness within the realm of Maya, right? Then clearly you're not going to have any kind of presence of mind and so forth and so on for these sadhanas. You're not going to become enlightened. It's just not going to happen. You see, you're too busy in your pursuit. Your pursuit of happiness within the realm of conditional reality is consuming all your time, energy, and attention. You follow me? You are lost in that process. And unless there is uparti, you see, unless there's the renunciation of that pursuit on the basis of vavik, you see, vavik, when you break out vavik, you get dristis, right? Vavik is made up of the attainment of the dristis. You all know the dristis, you see. One of the dristis, the other dristis, seeing that there's no way for you to have the happiness you seek by acquiring that which is impermanent. Can't happen. You have that vavik. You see, if you have vavik, you see, then you can do these things. Now you understand, if there's no viragya and there's no vavika, you can't do kat sampati. Are you with me? So it's not like you said, well, I'm going to skip 1 and 2, and I'm going to go, no. There is no skipping around here, you see. How would you do urupati if you have no vavik, if you haven't already seen that? You can't do it. You just cannot do it, you see. With vavik, with viraji, you see, then you are able to begin to cultivate these qualities. See, of a Brahmgyani, a knower of Brahma, you see, not before. You see. So renunciation, this is a big one, put an asterisk by that one, you see. This pursuit of happiness, this presumption that the world is the location of happiness, the source of happiness, this whole pursuit based on that presumption is what creates samsara, is what creates Maya. That is Maya. That is Maya. So samsara is not the world, world. Samsara is the world being presumed to be the source of happiness. That's Maya. This is not Maya. You're thinking that having this table will make you happy. That's Maya. Are you following? You see the distinction?
Yeah.
You see? Things in themselves are not Maya. Your interaction with things in themselves under the presumption they will generate the happiness you seek, and that's Maya. You follow what I'm saying? So upati has nothing to do with renouncing your home, your wife, your children, your job. That's not upati. You follow what I'm saying? That's just more ignorance. Are you with me? Upati is renunciation of this pursuit of happiness under the presumption that the world is the source of it. You see? This is Sogai. See, these teachings are profound, you see. And as we go through these slokas, you're going to begin to see Ashtavakra is going right at it. You see my point? With the precision of a surgeon, you see. The next one is Shraddha, faith. Faith. Conviction. You see? Faith born of Vavika. It's not blind. So I don't want you to get confused here. Ashtavakra, like all of these adepts, they're not advocating blind faith. They said this faith is based on Vavika, conviction. You know, so Shraddha better translates as conviction. You follow me? Solid, doubt-free conviction. Because again, if you are not, if you don't have Shraddha, you see, based on Vavika, how would you do any of the prior ones? You just couldn't, you see. Because you're not convinced, you see. There's no conviction in you. That the world is not the source of happiness. There's no conviction in you about it. You're not convicted by that yet, you see. This absence of conviction is the absence of Shraddha. There's no conviction. Yes, you are here, Ashtavakra, you are here the Buddha, you are here this and that person said that this place is not, but you're not convicted about that. You have no Shraddha. And without Shraddha, without conviction, how will you do the sadhana? You simply can't. You see, you'll be wavering. You'll be wishy-washy. You will be back and forth, you see, and so forth and so on. The next one is samadanta. Samadanta. Samadanta means the ability to be focused. Sometimes it's translated as meditation, but meditation is a very comprehensive term. What Samadanta is really pointing to is focused. You see, one-pointedness. One-pointed, focus. You see, if you are convicted, you see, if you have Shraddha, then you are one-pointed. You're fixed, focused. You see, you're about that business. You're not all over the place, you see. You're trying to really achieve the purpose of this human birth, you see. When Ashtavakra is asked by Janaka, how is knowledge to be acquired? How is liberation to be attained? You see, how is dispassion to be reached? Tell me this, sir. See, he's asking questions relative to the purpose of life. You follow me? That is the purpose of life, you see, to achieve that knowledge, you see, to achieve all of that. That's his purpose. And that's what you're up to. You follow me? Everything else is peripheral. Are you with me? That's it's what is implied by samadanta, you see? And the fourth sadhana is mamukshava. Mamukshava. Mamukshava means having the intense desire to be free, free from that bondage that Janaka was experiencing, even though he was a king. You follow me? Mumukshava fundamentally is the intense desire to be free from this near pathological dependence upon the world for the sake of being happy. To be free of this dependence on anyone and anything for the sake of being happy, free from all of that. Now, you can just feel in yourself and feel your level of dependence. You just so you're pathologically dependent. You're enslaved. That's bondage. Because if something don't go right, you just messed up. The slightest, a person could say the slightest thing to you, and your peace of mind is blown away. Are you with me? Mumukshava is the desire to be free of such fragileness. Mumukshava is to be free of this kind of emotional weakness. This need for everything to be hunky-dory and everybody to say exactly what you want, do exactly what you want, you see. Mumukshava is freedom from your ragavasas. I'll write this down for you. Or you can write it on the side. R-A-G-A dash, the that's a D, like in David, D, like in victory, E-S-H. Your likes and your dislikes. That's bondage. Are you with me? That's a bondage. You see? Mumukshava is the intense desire to be free from this chronic and near pathological dependency upon things and people in this world in order to be happy. You want to be free of it. And you have to, and that's something deeply felt by you. It's not an intellectual thing. You follow me? As we sit here today on King's birthday, and one of the phrases most associated with King is free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. That's my muksha. Free at last. Free from this crushing dependence upon some person, some thing, some place, some situation, some circumstance, in order for me to have the sense of happiness and freedom. Now, you need to let this sink in deeply. Deep. And you got to get in touch with your slavery. And see that fundamentally our lives are the lives of slaves. You're a slave. You see. And as you begin to reflect on it, you begin to see now how the cause of your preoccupation with the sense objects, you see, because you depended upon the sense objects and sense gratification from those objects in order for you to have some semblance of peace, you see. We really can't even call it peace. We really can't even call it happiness. It's copingness. You're just coping. You see? And coping is not good enough, you see, for a person who has mumukshava. They want to be free. Moska, you see. He wants to be free from dependence. And look at all the things, beloveds, that you are chronically, pathologically dependent upon to feel good. Just think about it. I mean, really just think about it. And you will get a sense of what is meant by bondage. You see, Ashtavakra will be talking about the means by which one becomes free from this kind of bondage. Utterly That's those are the four basic sadhanas. They're the basic, but there's more. Okay. There's actually 7 sadhanas that makes up the complete sampradaya of Vedanta. You see. Now, most of the literature talks about them, but they don't always put them together for you. So I want to just put them here so that you follow. Okay. Number 5 would be what they call Saravana, S-R-A-V-A-V-A-N-A, Saravaranam, hearing. Hearing the Dhamma, hearing the teaching, hearing the sutras, hearing the slokas. You see, you hear them, you're reading them, you're studying them for the sake of becoming established in the right view. Are you with me? Like, we're reading these things here, we're talking about them, satsang. This is all saranam. You see, this is here. That's important. That's important. Number 6 is mananam, M-A-N-A-N-A-M, mananam. That's deep reflection now. You see, you got to reflect on all of this, right? You got to think about it. It's ruminating, pondering. And mananam is purpose to remove your skepticism and your doubt, you see? Because you are lacking shraddha, because you got doubts. Those doubts have got to be dealt with, you see? Mananam is dealing with your doubts, with your skepticism, with that which is preventing you from having the conviction that the process requires, you see? So you got to reflect, you got to deeply ponder, consider, ruminate, and disappear those doubts in order to liberate the energy, time, and attention that the process requires of you. You follow me? So mananam, you see. Listening to the Dhamma and then reflecting deeply on the Dhamma, you see, to the point of resolving your doubts, your double-mindedness, you see. This conflicted mind where you're holding 2 contradictory views. On the one hand, you feel that the pursuit of happiness in the world is futile, but on the other hand, you feel that the pursuit of happiness in the world is possible. You are conflicted. You follow me? You are holding 2 contradictory beliefs. And that contradiction must be resolved. That's manana. You see. That's all dealing still with the buddhi. You see, all of this is still dealing with the buddhi. Purifying, establishing it. You see? And making it strong, solid, clear. And then there's the 7th step, and that is nididhyasana. 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 Nididhyasana is the meditation now. You see? Nididhyasana is the assimilating of all of this that makes up the hearing and so forth and so on. It's like food. You can, if you just look at food, you'll get no energy from that food. For food to become energy in the body, it has to be ingested, swallowed, so forth and so on. Then the body becomes energized. Similarly, the Dhamma, the teachings, has to be assimilated. This is nididhyasana, assimilated. It has to be reflected in your life and living. It has to become how you live, you see. This assimilation process is meditation, you see. Without this, you see, then you cannot become anything more than a vachakgyani, a talker. You see. It won't be your experience, you see. The Yogeshwar Gyanis, they went through this whole process, you see. Now the Vyagyani talks beautifully. If it sounds so good, you get a little boost, but that's it. You follow me? You'll hear no talk about sadhana. You see, some of you have gone to these modern day Vedanta teachers. You're not going to hear any of this. They're not even going to talk about any of this because they don't think any of this is necessary. You follow what I'm saying? They just think they can read a book and come to a conclusion logically that aham brahmasi. You follow me? Aham brahmasi is not an experience that can be had merely through a logical process. Minimally, this is what it takes. Now I'm talking, this is minimum stuff here, right? There was more, but this is basic. You see, these are the basics of it, right? And this takes us into all other kinds of aspects of sadhana and so forth and so on. All right, we're going to continue to read now. And as we read, try to keep this in mind because you could hear that sloka, and you're able to see where that sloka is coming in. Okay, you could see where what Ashtavakra is saying to Janaka. You can see where it fits in this framework. You can see what he's trying to bring Janaka to. All right, so Rani Kumari, you can return, and we're going to move through this. So we're going to go again back to this second sloka. And I hope these swamis are not turning over in their graves because I'm killing this Sanskrit. Mukti mitchitshasi chittaya. No, let me start.
That's not right.
That's right. Mukti mitchitshasi chittata visyan vishavatiyaya. Kisambrat.
We did that one.
Yes, I know, I'm going back to
we
it.
can do it again. Correction, you okay?
It started. It's okay, it's okay. Mukti mechitchasi chittata visasyan visachevatiya Samarajavada tosa satyam priyasava bhaja.
If you are seeking liberation, my son, shun the objects of the senses like poison. Practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar.
You see the summer? You see where it's going? Na prithvi na jalam na niram vayudhyarana va bhavan isam chakti atmatmanam siddhupam vidhi muktayi.
You do not consist of the elements, earth, water, fire, air, or even ether. To be liberated, know yourself as consisting of consciousness, the witness of these.
You do not consist. He's establishing, he's dealing with this wrong view, you see, because we, in our ignorance, think we are these combinations of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, these tatwas, as they are called, you see. The body is made up of the tatwas, and you think you these tatwas. When you're thinking and feeling that I am the body, you're really feeling that I am this composition of tatwas, you see. And what Ashtavakra is doing, he's making it clear to Janaka, you do not consist of these elements, earth, water, fire, air, and even ether. To be liberated, know yourself as consistent of consciousness itself, the witness of all of these, you see. Isam Shaksi, you see, Shaksi means witness, okay? Witnessing consciousness. Isam Shaksi Amatamanam Siddhupam Vidhi Muktayi, see. Know yourself as the witness of these, you see, and be free. Now this is utterly profound, you see. Changing your concept of yourself, establishing us in the right view, you see. Stop looking upon yourself as being just made of these tatwas, you see, this body, you see. You're the witness of all of this, you see. And you think about it, you see. This body has gone through all kinds of changes. Is that about right? From the time you were born to where you are now, this body has gone through all kinds of changes. It don't even look like it did when it started its original journey, you see? Is that about right? Mm-hmm. It has changed, you see? It's changing, you see? But there's something that is not changed. That's Saksi. That is that which is the witness. Thou art that, you see? And you have to begin to change your view of yourself from being that which is constantly changing to that which is not changing. There has to be, you see, a reference point that is not changing in order to even notice the changes. Have you noticed that? See, there has to be something that is not changing that serves as a reference for determining what is changing. Tatwamatsi. That says Ashtavakra. You see? And stop looking upon yourself as that which is changing. You see? Everything else is changing. Every other kind of experience is simply changing, you see. That which is an object to Saksi cannot be you. That which is an object cannot be a subject, you see. You're just this pure, subjective, changeless awareness. This body is an object, and it changes like any other object. Are you with me? This is Sogai, this is Gairabera, this is deep, this is the right view that you must ultimately become capable of holding relative to who and what you are, you see. It has to be visible, felt, you see, not just purely intellectual, you see. It must be assimilated, you see. Nididhyasana, you follow me? It must be assimilated. So that your feeling of being awareness is as solid as your present feeling that you are a body. You see? Like you're sitting there and you're feeling that you are this body, and there's not a shred of doubt in your mind about it. Similarly, there must be that process by which you come to the right understanding and thus the right felt experience of yourself as being only pure consciousness itself, without a doubt about it. You see, that's Moska. You see, that's Moska. You do not consist of the elements that makes up this body. To be liberated, my son, know yourself as consistent of only consciousness itself, the witness of these, and thus be happy. Yadidi hamritakriti siti varasya taksishtesi Adonava sukum sato bandamukto bhavitsati.
If only you will remain resting in consciousness, seeing yourself as distinct from the body, then even now you will become happy, peaceful, and free from bonds.
Bonds. Remember we were talking about the bondage, right? You see. So Ashtavakra is saying that this don't take all this time. You see? It may take time, but that's because you. It's not because the process requires it. You see? That if only you will remain resting in this consciousness, seeing yourself, got to change that view, seeing yourself as distinct from the body, then even now you will become happy, peaceful, and free from bonds. Bhavika. You see? Even now you would see it. But there must be some bhavika to see it. Are you with me? This is called Atma Gyan, knowing the self, knowledge of self. You see. Natvam vipratiko varno narasmi naksarko chakara asangosi narakaru vivasaki sukhi bhava.
You do not belong to the Brahmin or any other caste. You are not at any stage, nor are you anything the eye can see. You are unattached and formless, the witness of everything, so be happy.
That's profound. Each one is just taking deeper into this thing. You know. Natvam vipratiko vranu. You don't belong to any caste. See, back in those times, he's writing contemporary to his time in India, there was a caste system, you all know that, right? The Brahmin, the Kshatriyas, and so forth, all the way down to the untouchable, the sutras. He's saying you're not none of these. Because all of these designations are based on the body. You're not the body. So you're not any kind of classification of it. You're not black. You're not female. You're not this. You're not any description of self that is based on your body. You see? Natvam vibratiko varnu. You see, Vanu, the word Varna in Sanskrit itself means color, you see. And of course the caste system eventually can be accounted for in terms of color. Light skin, Hindus, Brahmin, the darker, the lower, you see. But Ashtavakra was telling Janaka, you're not any of that. He was telling you, you're not even a king. You're not Kshatriya. You see? You're none of those things. 'Cause that's another caste, Kshatriya. That was the king. You're not even a king. Stop thinking of yourself as a king. You're none of that. You follow me? You see the utter profundity of what Ashtavakra is communicating to Janaka? You see? And Janaka is hearing all of this. He's Sarananda, you see? He's Mananda. He's going to speak his realization in the next chapter. So you'll begin to see. But I want you to see the power, you see, of Ashtavakra, you see? And see the strength of Janaka to hear that. You follow me? Can you go imagine telling Obama you ain't shit? You ain't no president, you know, to stop all that trip? I mean, can you understand what happened? You get shot. You know what I mean? So here he's telling you that natwam vibraktiko vanu na rasmi na saka gokara. You're none of these things. You see, you're not your case. I'm black. No, you're not. The body's black. You're not black. You're that which is witnessing the black body. I'm male, I'm female. No, you're neither. You follow me? You are without form. You don't even have a form. What are you talking about? You follow me? You are that which is witnessing the gender of the body. You're not it, you see? You're not at any stage, asrami. In Hindu, nasrami nak sako kara. You're not at any of the stages. And Hindu culture, they talk about the asrami, the stages of life. You know, 0 to 25, you brahmachari. You know, then from 25 to 50, you're in another stage of life. You know, you're middle age. And then from 50, from 25 to 50, you're a householder. From 50 to 75, you retirement. And then from 75 to 100, you sannyasa and so forth. He's saying, you're not any of that. You're not at any stage. How can you be at any stage? You're not middle age. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? You know, I'm middle age, I'm old. No, you're neither old, you're not middle age, you're none of those things. All of that is about the body or its activity. You follow me? You are none of that. You see? You are none of that. Buddha Dasa had that insight.
You're a teenager.
He said, I know I ain't old. You're right, Dee. But for the wrong reason. Oh, God. Ashtavakra says, Asango si nirakaru. Asango si nirakaru. You're not even anything you can see. Asangoham, there's a saying in Hinduism, Asangoham, you know, I'm nothing. I'm not, in a sense, I'm nothing that can be seen. I'm without form, you see? Utterly profound. Vivaksasi sukvava, you know, see that you are only this weak, this witnessing stuff. Sukhi bhava, and thus be happy. Sukhi means joy, happiness. Bhava means feel happy, be happy now. And again, remember, we come back to that statement. The only reason you're unhappy is because you're not seeing yourself as you are. He's saying here, Vivaksakti sukhi bhava. You know, see yourself as you are and be happy. Because you are happiness. Happiness is your nature. Satchidananda, Ananda, you are, that's what you are. You see. Be your true self and you will be happy. That is what happiness is about. You see? And he will go into this further in the sutra. I don't know if we'll get to those chapters, but you know the direction. Just check this time here. Dharmamu sukam dukam manasani nate vibu nakatasi na buktaksi mukta ivasi sarvada.
Righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and are no concern of yours. You are neither the doer nor the reaper of the consequences, so you are always free.
That's the rock is getting deep, ain't it? Deep. Dharma dharmu sukam dukam, righteousness and unrighteousness. Manasini tate vibu, pleasure and pain. Nakatasi na buktasi, mukta ivasi sarvada, righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and of no concern to you. Why? Because you're not the mind. See, he's going deep now, you see, because the body is made of the gross levels of tattoos, but everything is made up of these 5 tattoos, including the mind itself. You follow me? They're just a more subtle form of the tattoos, you see. Those subtle forms of the tattoos that makes the mind have their names, of course. You see, the Atankaringat, the Buddhi, Mana, Chitta, Ahamkara. These are just more refined forms of tattoos, you see. But you're not that mind, you see. You're not that mind, you see. You're not righteousness or unrighteousness. Even when you're doing something with the body, speech, or mind that you call a righteous act, you're not even that thing. If you're no stage, right? No role, you're none of that. You are only the sakshi that is the witness of all of that, you see. Righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and of no concern of yours. That's Varajya. Second level, Paravarajya. You see my point? First, there's the Varajya associated with the body in the senses, then there's the Paravarajya. You see? Ashtavakra is going deep here. You follow me? Because part of your sense of self is made up with your identification with your mind. Is that about right? You see? I mean, there's body ego, then there's a kind of sense of ego that is the result of your identification with your mind, your mental activity, your thinking, your thoughts, your value systems, your morals, your ethics, all of that, you see? Mental qualities, you see? And their expression, none of that, Ashtavakra said, is you. You see? And therefore is of no concern to you. Follow me? You are neither the doer nor the reaper of the consequences. You see? That is utterly profound. You see? Nakatasi na bhoktasi mukta ivasi sarvata. You're not the enjoyer, you see. The bhoktisi. That's enjoy. You're not even the enjoyer. That which is enjoying, you see, it's just part of the mind. You're not the mind. You follow me? You're that which is the witness of the mind having an experience of enjoyment. This is Gadira. This is deep. This is profound. This is Gyan. Mukta ivasi sarvada. You're not the reaper of consequences. The mind creates an experience karma, not you. Saksi, you're simply the witness of the karma being played out at the level of body and mind. It is akamma, without karma, untouched. Knowing that you are untouched, therefore be happy. It has nothing to do with you. Mind your own business. Stop meddling, you see, right? You're untouched. It's like the sky. Clouds are floating through it. It can be thunder, lightning. The sky is not touched. Is that about right? You hear a big boom of lightning, boom. There's no scar on the sky. The sky ain't got a crack in it. You follow what I'm saying? The sky does not get struck by lightning. You follow me? You're like the sky, you see. And so you are always free. Always and already free. Free. Mosca, free. Iko drastati savasaya mukta prayosi sarvada ayameva hite bando trastamram patsi atsitram.
You are the one witness of everything and are always completely free. The cause of your bondage is that you see the witness as something other than this.
This is now you see it's almost time for us to lay down. Because now this is getting too heavy. You follow me? You see? Iko drastasi savrasiya. You are the one witness of everything. 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 You see? You are the witness of the body and all of the sensation there in it. You see? The body don't know me, I know it. You see? The body not even conscious of its own self. Are you with me? The body is not conscious of the pain in it. The witness is conscious of the pain in it. You follow me? The same is the case with your emotions. Your emotions are not aware of you. You are aware of them. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. Everything, top to bottom, outer and inner. You see? Ikudrastasi sarasaya. You are the witness of everything. Mukta prayosi sarvada. You see? And always completely free. Not sometimes. You see? Not under certain circumstances, you are free. Are you with me? You are always already free. You see? Get established. Get in the right view. You see? Replace this Ashuddha Vikapa of self with the Shuddha Vikapa of self. Replace this wrong view of self with the right view of self, and thus be happy. You see? Ayameva hite bando drastiram pasyasitram. The cause of your bondage is that you see the witness as something other than it is. You see the witness as the body. Right? Is that all right? You see the witness as the mind is the witness. You see? My body knows this is cold. You think the body is the witness, the knower. Body is not the knower of anything. Are you with me? You think the mind is the saksi. The mind is not the saksi. You think the emotions, are the saksi. Ayamave hite bando, you are in bondage, bando, you are in bondage. You see. Tastriyam pasi asitram, because you see yourself as something other than you are. You see this witness. You are the witnessing, but you see yourself as something other than this. I am the body. I am my emotions, my thoughts, my beliefs, my education, my knowledge. You see yourself as everything other than those saksi, the witness. Ponder that. Let that go deep. Just mananam this a bit. And really understand it. And see that, in fact, Ashtavakra is absolutely correct. Don't we see ourselves as something other than consciousness itself? Isn't that your problem? Isn't that your problem?
Yeah.
And that's the only problem. And that is the cause of your practice. That is the cause of your suffering. Aham karti yahammanannamama hatsasai naham karati visvasasmanam pitvasukki bhavam.
Since you have been bitten by the black snake, the opinion about yourself that I am the doer, drink the antidote of faith in the fact that I am not the doer, and be happy.
Beautiful. Replace this wrong view of self as the door, you see? You have been bitten by the black snake of egoism, you see? Aham kati ihamma nan mahatra. Idam sita. Just a few key words in here that I'm familiar with. This black snake of ego. And this opinion that about ourselves, that I am the doer, has been made clear from the previous sloka. You see. He says, Naham karti vivasraman pitva sukhi bhava amritam. The word aritam, that's nectar. That's drink this nectar. You see, the antidote of faith, conviction, shraddha, right? Cultivate this shraddha, this conviction. You see, the opinion, the view about ourselves. You see, and drink this antidote of faith in the fact I am not the doer, and thus be happy. You see, just drink the antidote. I just love the language because that's nididhyasana. You know, you got to drink this thing. You know, what good is if you're thirsty and you see water, you know water there, but you don't drink it? The thirst goes nowhere. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. It remains. You see. I am not the doer, then what is the doer? You see? The indriyas that we were talking about earlier, that's the doer, you see? The indriya, the body, automatically does, you see? The karma indriyas, the hands, the mouth, you see, the feet, and the two lower aperture. All physical actions go through that. They're doing it, you see? If I throw something at you, you just catch it. The body just reacts. You see? There are two waves that drives the body activity. These, in terms of your vital energies, you see. And when your energy is low, that's hunger. You eat. You follow me? It's really that simple. follow me? When the body is thirsty, you drink. Automatically. You follow me? You're witnessing that automaticity of the body. Are you with me? The body breathes in, it breathes out. You see? It's like a machine almost. Are you with me? You're the witness, the saksi. You are that which is witnessing. You're not doing it. It's doing itself. Are you with me? You're not doing thinking. What do you have to do in order to think? Do you do anything in order to think? Do you do anything in order to sense? To see, touch, taste, smell, and feel? Are you doing anything to have sensual experiences and perceptions? What are you doing? You see, you're not that doer. Yes, doing is happening, but you're not the doer. You're the witness of the doing at these levels. You see. See this and have shraddha that you're not the doer. If I sukhi bhava, if thus be happy. In fact, there's some of the yogishwars will have a practice, and since whoever wants to, you can stay seated. Well, could you just, if you will, on the side somewhere? They will have a practice, they call it a Trikala Darsana. Trikala is Trikala, Trikala. Kala means time, tri means three. Darsana, just like darshan. Okay, this Trikala Darsana was a practice where 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, the practitioner of Gyan Yoga was simply stop and observe what's going on and who's doing it, and see in that moment. You see, that is not me. That I'm not to do it. Whatever you're doing, you know what I mean, at such and such a time, just stop and observe and see, who's doing this? You see, get clear, you know what I mean? And this was a practice that over time slowly began to help you become convinced, you know, and convicted that I'm not the doer. It's just not a doctrine, a dogma. It is a revelation. It is an actual seeing. But to see, you must observe. Stop. You see. So we talked about self-observation, but this Trikala Darsana is really disciplining that. You see. So 3 times a day. You see. In the morning, you know, you do your first Darsana. You see. Your first dristi. You see. You look and see. Like we're talking, but saksi is not talking. The saksi here is not talking. Mind is talking, yes. Saksi is silent. It does not talk. You see, the buddhi is thinking about what's going to be said, how to say it, you know, and so forth and so on. But saksi is not. You see, simply observing the activity of the buddhi. You follow me? You have to pause in your daily activities at least 3 times, more if you like, but certainly 3. And see what's going on and who's doing it. And see if that's you. See is just the play of kamindriyas and jana indriyas. You're not doing anything to see. You know, you walk in and you see something, right? And notice, even when you see something, you're not doing any of that. you just see. You follow me? You're not hearing anything. So you have to mananam this, you see? You see the importance, because see, you have to mananam this. If you don't mananam, you're just making dogma. It's academic, it's information, and it is useless. You follow me? You got to mananam. So this Trikala Dasana is a kind of practice of manana. You're pausing. It's a kind of nididhyasana. It's a kind of discipline that you engage in. Iku visuddha bodhuhum iti niskayara nina pravalaya jana gathamnam vita sukha sukibhava.
Burn down the forest of ignorance with the fire of understanding, that I am the one perfect awareness, and be happy and free from distress.
Burn down this force of ignorance with the fire of understanding and conviction. You see, this force of ignorance, all this ignorance, you see. And he spoke of that ignorance before, where there's that identification with your atarami, your stage of life that you're in, your caste, your sex, your color, your race, your politics, your religion. All of that is like a force, you see? And you need to burn that down and clear that. He said, burn down this force of ignorance with the fire of understanding, you see? The fire of understanding that I am only pure consciousness itself, and thus be happy and free from all distress, you see. So again, you can look back into the scheme and see where all of this begins. Thank you, beloved. Where you see all of this. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna take me a nap. Iko visuddha buhoham iti niskaya vanina pravalya jannagahanam vitaksoka skibhava. Burn down this force of ignorance with a fire of understanding. And in this, again, he is again referring to that kind of knowledge that Janaka was asking for, because it is only this fire of understanding that will burn down this force of ignorance. If you are trying to burn down this force of ignorance with the pseudo-knowledge that most of us is in pursuit of, that's not going to burn it down. You follow what I'm saying? Because you've been accumulating all kinds of knowledge, haven't you? Mm-hmm. You've been reading, talking to each other, cooling with, and that knowledge that you've been accumulating has not burned, not only has it not burnt down the forest, it has not even burnt a leaf on one of the trees down there. Because your sense of being the body is as solid as it was day one. It has not gone anywhere. Are you with me? Has it? Nowhere. You see? Your bondage has remained as it is. Even though you have acquired what you consider to be a lot of knowledge. You read books, you had discourses, you talk to each other endlessly about these spiritual matters and so forth. And somehow, you feeling that the forest can't be burned down. You know, I watched this video. I've been coming to start song. Why can't I? You know, why am I still struggling with this and that? Well, yeah, you're struggling because you're not operating with any real knowledge. Certainly not the knowledge that Ashtavakra is presenting here, and certainly you didn't even ask for this kind of knowledge. You wanted to know what school the guru went to. You want to know something about cosmology. You want to know this. You want to know that. You wanted to know all other kind of. You didn't even ask for the knowledge. You follow me? And most of what you want, you don't even need this knowledge. You want a husband. What do you need Gyan for? Lose some damn weight. You know what I mean? Dress evocative. You get a man. Shit. Men can get men. So get naked. You got it. You know?
Oh my God.
God help us. Yatra Visvam Midam Bhakti Kapityam Rajusarapavat Ananda Parambananda Sabodhasam Sukambhava.
That in which all this appears, imagine like the snake in a rope, that joy, supreme joy and awareness is what you are, so be happy.
That in which all this appears is like a snake appearing in a rope. What is that in which all this is appearing? It is saksi. It is consciousness. Consciousness is the substratum, the rope, if you will, upon which all of this is appearing. Again, Ashtavakra is writing at a time in India, and in India in those rural days, it was very rural. It still is. Most of India's population is in the countryside, even to today, and in the forest and so forth. And so clearly, if you're living in the forest, there's going to be snakes and all of this here. So snake was a common thing that most people knew about and so forth. And had incidentally the experience of being frightened by what they thought was a snake, because snakes were dangerous, you see, so they were very vigilant about it. So anything that looked like a snake, you see. So he's using a analogy that is contemporary to the time at which these teachings were being given. But he says that nevertheless, that in which, or upon which all this, what is this? Samsara, the world, right? All of this which is appearing in the same way that a snake appears on a rope. And how does the snake appear on the rope? Out of ignorance. See, darkness, ignorance, confusion, lack of clarity, lack of idea. When there is no virajya and no vavika, you see, it's cast a shadow like on all this stuff, you see? And in that shadow of ignorance, that darkness of ignorance, you see, without any light there, you see the world and you begin to think it is something other than it really is. That is, that it has some kind of independent existence. You follow me? This world is superimposed upon the self, saksi, consciousness. Just as between the rope and the snake, there's only one absolute reality, there's a rope. You see? The snake you see is not ultimate and absolute reality. It's an appearance, conditional reality. Conditional reality is an appearance, you see, that is superimposed upon absolute reality. What's the absolute reality? Consciousness, saksi. So again, Ashtavakra is going very, very, very deep. Ananda Paramana Sabhavatsvam Suktam Bhava. He says that we must see this illusion of the snake in a rope. That seeing, that joy, that supreme joy in awareness is what you are. The suffering that you see is not your suffering. It's so profound. But the statement, I am suffering, is just like the statement that there's a snake here. Because the I, the true I, is not suffering. Can't suffer. Body suffering. Right? So here he gets real deep. See, to go through these things, you know, the intellect, the buddhi has to be clean, has to be sharp. Otherwise, you can't even access this stuff here. In ancient time, you could not even hear Dhamma like this unless you had already reached a certain level of purity of Buddha. Because the intellect has to be very sharp, because this is very deep stuff. You follow me? And so the teaching was just not given. You follow me? A greater preparation had to be there before that. And we will talk somewhere down the road about what that prior preparation is, because all of this is based on the presumption that you are prepared. You see my point?
Yeah.
You see, if you prepared and you qualified, okay, now here's the curriculum. But the presumption is that you're prepared, you qualified. You have a basic clarity of buddhi. You see? So forth and so on. And so as you move through these sutras, and you begin to see now how Ashtavakra is going deeper and deeper and deeper into this process, and as you move deeper, it requires more intelligence to follow, because it's going deeper. It's going deeper. And he's going deep because he knows Janaka has that intelligence to handle that then, you see. He's able to imagine, to conceive. He can do that. He can wrap his mind around the metaphor, you see. He has the depth of mananam, you see. Yeah, I can see Asaraka, how all these experiences are simply arising in my consciousness. I can see that. I can feel that. I can experience that. You will hear what Janaka has to say in the next chapter as proof that he followed it here. You see, he gives his own utterances, which are equally profound and beautiful. It's almost like in old times, when you would learn a subject or an activity, you would find a master. So let's say like you wanted to study music. You would go to a master of music of that particular instrument. Let's say it's the piano. And the disciple would come and sit side of the master pianist. The master pianist will play a piece and say, now you play it. You see. And the disciple will try to play it. He may struggle here and there, but he'll keep going until the master says, okay, that's right, beautiful. Then you'll play another piece. And then the disciple will duplicate that. This is what's going on between Ashtavakra and Janaka. Ashtavakra is laying down some of this Dhamma, saying, now you understand. Okay, this one. Then you go a little deeper, you see. So in some sense, we'll be challenged to be able to have the kind of clarity of buddhi and intelligence and intellect to be able to follow this. We're bound to stumble and get stuck somewhere, but let's go as far as our little intellect can take us, okay? But you can easily imagine that upon discovering that what you thought was a snake is just a rope, you can easily imagine the moska that will produce. And along with that moska, you can imagine the joy. Oh, the relief. It's not a snake, and I'm not in harm's way. You know? Similarly, what can it be like then to realize that I'm not the body and I'm not going to die? What a relief. You know what I mean? What joy must that be to have that kind of revelation, that kind of knowledge, that kind of experience of the thing that you thought was real is not real, that so forth and so on. I mean, it's really quite profound, quite profound. It's like when you rope snake is one example. We can also consider the example of fire and iron. You see, if you take iron, right, and you impose fire on it, right, you heat it, right, that iron, right, will take on the qualities of that fire, right? But iron in its pure nature is not hot, is it? Right? This hotness is superimposed by the fire, right? If you heat it to a certain point, the iron will bend, right? But iron don't bend like that, right? Or to reverse the analogy, if fire don't bend, right? Bending is not a quality of fire, but they're superimposed upon each other, right? Sort of like that, you see. The body, mind, emotions, so forth and so on, are superimposed upon Sakti, right? And if you don't have a sense of the absolute nature of Sakti, you see, you begin to presume that fire bends, you know what I mean? And fire can be flattened, you know what I mean? And that's not true. So, should we try one more here? That's 10 of them, right? Maybe I'll stop here, because I want to leave a little time for discussion, okay? We'll stop here, and we'll pick up from here next time. But now let's use this time to comb back through anything that has been said thus far, and take your questions, all for the sake of further clarification. So, Rani Kamara, before you take your seat again, would you just read all 10 of those again?
Yes.
So that it can refresh our mind? And thank you, Mukherjee, for letting me use your body.
It starts off with the question that Janaka asked Ashtavakra, which was, how is one to acquire knowledge? How is one to attain liberation? And how is one to reach dispassion? Tell me this, sir. And Ashtavakra's response was, if you are seeking liberation, my son, avoid the objects of the senses like poison, and cultivate tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness as the antidote.
No, read them all. Read all 10. You don't have all 10?
I do, but I forgot that the copies were different, so.
That's okay, it comes first. Do you-
Oh,
you
okay,
do
I'll
that?
stay with it,
Yeah,
and
stay
then I
with it.
can
Yeah,
have
sorry.
10. Sorry. You do not consist of any other elements, earth, water, fire, air, or even ether. To be liberated, know yourself as consisting of consciousness, the witness of these. If only you will remain resting in consciousness, seeing yourself as distinct from the body, then even now you will become happy, peaceful, and free from bonds. You do not belong to the Brahmin or any other caste. You are not at any stage, nor are you anything the eye can see. You are unattached and formless, the witness of everything, so be happy. Righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and are of no concern of yours. You are neither the doer nor the reaper of the consequences, so you are always free. You are the one witness of everything and are always completely free. The cause of your bondage is that you see the witness as something other than this. Since you have been bitten by the black snake, the opinion about yourself that I am the doer, drink the antidote of faith in the fact that I am not the doer, and be happy. Burn down the forest of ignorance with the fire of understanding, that I am the one pure awareness, and be happy and free from distress. That in which all this appears is imagined like the snake in a rope, that joy, supreme joy, and the awareness is what you are, so be happy.
That's space Ashtavakra. And there's more where that came from. So, let's mananam a little bit here. Yes, Manana.
Can you talk a little bit more about this, one of the 6 qualities that we have to cultivate? I think the first one is sama. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, this is equanimity, serenity, right? Because that which you do out of an uncalm state of mind, first of all, you're not going to do it very well. That's the first thing, you see? Secondly, you will experience whatever you do. The quality of what you do is based on the quality of the state of mind out of which you're doing the thing. So let's say if I have a state of sama, whatever I do will generate a positive experience for me because I'm in a positive state of mind, you see. If you're in a negative state of mind, whatever you do out of that negative state of mind will be a negative experience for you, you see. Not because so much of the experience per se, but it's the state of mind out of which you're doing it, you see. So again, like if you are happy, then whatever you do will only enhance that happiness. It won't take it away, you see. It will be colored by that. So sama, you see, beloved, is this quality that has to be cultivated, developed, you see, through sadhana. And this quality, first and foremost, requires a certain degree of vairagya and a certain degree of viveka to even generate it in yourself. You follow me? And that was one of the things that we mentioned, is that there can't be no leapfrogging. You see, if there's not sufficient vairagya, and thus the viveka then any of the Katsampadis, Sama, Dhamma, and so forth, it's going to be beyond your reach. Like anything else that is done. And I'm speaking now from an egoic perspective, you know. Anything that is done, any human activity requires a certain kind of qualification, don't you think? What kind of work do you do, beloved?
Finance.
I thought you fight with Mooney. You know, that's you don't consider that work. That's pleasure, right? Finance, right? And so there was a certain kind of training you had to go through, right, to be qualified to do that. You see. So in the same way, there's a certain kind of qualification for the ability to maintain your mind in a state of sadhana. And the mystics have talked about that. In Ashtavakra Gita, there's not going to be much discussion of that because Ashtavakra is just distilling everything. It's just pure Vedanta, you see. But in the Bhagwan Gita or in the not even so much in the Ribhu Gita, but mostly in the Bhagwan Gita will cover a lot of the preparation stages, the qualification stages, and so forth and so on. Then there's other Gitas that are just devoted to specific aspects of that qualifying stage, Guru Gitas and so forth and so on, you see. But all of those speak to that. It's just that in Ashtavakra Gita, he sees it's just, and he could do that because he was talking to Janaka, you see. For us, we have to start from scratch. You see my point? And so in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, it says, okay, you feel your body. Okay, we're going to start there. You see, Ashtavakra is starting on the, he's trying to get you to the point where you see that you're not the body, and let's go from there. If you can have the revelation that asangoham, you know, if you can have the revelation that I am not the body, if you have the shravada, the conviction, now you can follow Ashtavakra. If that conviction, you can't even follow him. And even if you had that kind of intelligence or intellect to follow him, it'll just be academic for you. It won't, you won't come out of that as Janaka. You see, Janaka came out of the process enlightened. We'll go through it and consider it intellectually, but you'll go through it. You're not going to come out of enlightened. You know what I mean? You'll see that clearly in Janaka's next response when we get into the chapter. But coming back to your point, which is a good point, which is all our point, in the Bhagavad Gitas or in the Siva Sutras or in the Radhaswami literature or in the Kemetic tradition, you will find a lot more help, you see. Ashtavakra Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, because of its elevation, is not very useful to most beginners. That's why it's not given to most beginners. We're talking about it now because my hope and prayer is that somebody in here is ready. You know, so I speak on Ashtavakra Gita because somebody is ready. And it's for their sake. You follow me? The rest of you, now let me turn my attention to you. Now, so in the other basic literature, it'll start where you at, because there is the feeling that you are the body, and it is the feeling that you are the doer, and that you are the enjoyer of the actions of the body. So it will start with that, and that is Kama Yoga. Kama Yoga. Now, Kama Yoga is itself an extensive sadhana, you know, so it can only touch on a little bit of it here. Most of our actions that we do for the sake of self-gratification. That's just a fact, right? This is called sakama karma yoga. Sakama, karma means desire, so forth, okay? So we start off, most of us, with that, sakama karma yoga. You see, you're doing those things that will result in your having pleasure or gratification. That's where we're at. You know what I mean? Though that describes most of our activities at the level of our body, mind, speech. All of the indriyas, you see, the karma indriyas, you know, everything we do with our hands, our feet, with our mouth, and the two lower aperture, we are using those organs of action to generate for ourselves an experience of pleasure, karma, right? You see, so that's sakama, karma yoga. Sa means with this desire, with desire for self and sensual gratification, and that pretty much describes all of the activity of the jiva that is not liberated from their ignorance, you see. And it becomes all of the problems. You follow what I'm saying as well? So, functioning at this sakama karma yoga level, one, where pleasurization of the body, we are trapped in between our ragas and daveshas, our likes and our dislikes. And these become very fixated. Fixated, not fluid, you see. Therapists, etc., we understand in clinical stuff that we talk about fixation, right? These are fixations, meaning they're not fluid, you see. You like this, and if it's not like that, you can't get with that, you see. You fixate it, either gonna be like this, or it's gonna be some hell to pay for it. You follow me? And what you dislike, you dislike. You know what I mean? I don't want it. I don't want it around. I don't want not even a little tiny bit of spinach. You know what I mean? I don't like it. So these are very solid. They're very fixed. So as we begin to start the process of movement toward these rarefied states that Ashtavakra is talking about, we have to begin to loosen this up. So all of these raga indivesas have to be altered from their fixation into a preference. You got to go from raga indivesas to preferences, you know? Preferences is easier to grow from that state. So you have preferences, you prefer this. But if it's not like that, okay, I can adapt, you see. I can accommodate, you see. You must loosen up this kind of fixation with your likes and your dislikes, and you got to become a little bit more open, a little bit more fluid. So you replace your raga and deveshas with preferences, you see. Preferences. I would rather have a first class seat here on the airlines, but you know, if you don't have any more first class, I'll take coach and I'll be all right. You follow me? I'm not gonna go ballistic when you say, well, we don't have no more first class seats. Oh, you son of a bitch. Y'all, you know what I mean? It's gonna be a fight. It's on now. You follow me? So you'll see if you reflect on your life, that most of your life, most of your actions are based on this sakama karma, where the raga and the vesas are fixated. So you got to get past your fixation. That's clinical psychological health 101. Don't you think so, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what we do with clients, try to get them out of their fixations. You know what I mean? Loosen them up a little bit. Give them the ability to adapt. In fact, without this movement from fixation of likes and dislikes to preferences, you remain maladapted. That's what we mean by maladaptation, maladaptive behavior. And you can look at yourself and you can see that you have a lot of maladaptive behavior. Make a note to yourself to identify what maladaptive forms of behavior you need to start replacing with preferences. And you will start getting a little bit of growth. That'll start moving you to a little bit more samma. You see? Not the high level of samma that Ashtavakra is talking about, but at least you'll have a little bit more samma. Because so much of your torment and absence of serenity and peace is because you can't get your way just the way you want it and exactly like that, with no compromise required. Mm-hmm. And not being able to do that, now you have no peace of mind. People are not exactly 100% the way you want it to be. Or some circumstances, not 100% the way you wanted it. And God damn it, you know, I ain't gonna have it. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so to the degree that you are fixated at the level of raga and devesa, aspects of your sakama, base karma and actions, you see, you're gonna have torment. All of that is what gives you the impulse to change, you see. So you won't have too much tolerance either, you see. And tolerance, remember, is one of the qualities of someone. You see, tolerance. You won't have much tolerance. How could you? You follow me? How could you? This absence of tolerance aspect of sama shows up, you become very controlling. You see? You want to change everything. You see? We said it like this, that's just fine. You're going to come over, you're going to change all this shit. You know what I mean? Right? You see? You must change. You will feel a almost pathological need to change everyone and every situation that you are in, to try to make them be the way you like, or to change them in any way that is causing you dislike. That's what you do. Not realizing that you can't change anyone that don't want to change. You see, you have no understanding. You have no varika. You see. So you're going to be operating on the presumption that you can change people and you can change things. You will lack vada dristi. You see, that's a lack of vada dristi. You see, vada dristi is not simply knowing that nobody can be the source of happiness for you, but it includes a lot more understanding. You see, you can't change anyone that don't want to change. You see. And if you try, especially if you're not even capable of changing anyone, you're going to get exchanged. You know, now you try to change your wife don't want to change, but even if she wanted to change, the question you got to ask, are you capable and have the ability to help them make the change they want to make? Are you even qualified? And if you're not, you're going to get kicked to the side, and she's going to get her a man that can help her change her poverty. Right? So she can get her some stuff. You're out. You know what I mean? You see, so you might have been right to say, oh, we need to change, we need to make more money. She look at you and say, well, you got no education. You're right about I need to change. So you have to consider all of these things, and it's much, much more, but that's why you gotta mananam the Dhamma. You got the mananam wisdom. You see, squeeze every ounce of it out. You see. So this basic level, where you are operating strictly on the basis of sakama-based karma actions, what you're doing in the world. Karma just means action, what you are doing in the world, and with your body, your mind, your speech, and so forth and so on. And with that, of course, you can include all of your money, your time, your attention, your energy, so forth and so on, right? All of that. If it is coming from the sakama level of karma, and maybe I'll get rid of this word yoga right now. Then you see. The yoga part would belong more like here, where you're moving these fixated states of likes and dislikes, changing them into preferences. Now you're making a little movement, okay? And as a result of that, you're going to have a little bit more sama. You're going to also have a little bit more dhamma. You see my point? You're going to also have a little bit more of all of those 6 qualities, because all of them are at some level operating in here, right? You see, certainly you're going to have a little bit more tatiksha, because you'll be able to endure coach instead of first class. You know what I mean? And that's what gives you the ability to relax away from those rigid, fixated likes and dislikes, you know, and adjust and adapt, because you have tatiksha. You can endure it. It's only going to be a 3-hour flight. I'll be all right. I'm not going to die. You know what I mean? So forth and so on. So you'll get all of those, a little bit of them. Now if you can move to the next level. Remember, this is not high stuff here. This is just, yeah, basic preparation at that. We're not into the Ashtavakra Gita level of Dhamma. You know, this is just basic stuff, you see. Dhamma for those who think they're the body mind. You see, there's a Dhamma and there's a sadhana for you too. You follow what I'm saying? Now, the next one is what they call niskama yoga. It's another level, right? And here, what is happening is that it looks, in some respect, much like sakama, but the difference is this. Now, I'm still doing stuff out of my preferences. You know what I mean? Things that I prefer. But I'm doing them for a higher purpose. See? Now, this begins to get a little bit of bhakti in it. Because bhakti is spread throughout all yoga, from the bottom all the way to the top. You see? All the way through. But here, there's a rise of a little bhakti now. You see? Okay. So in niskama karma yoga, right, I'm beginning to be able to still do these things, but for a higher purpose, you see. It's like if I have a preference, like I eat, right, and I'm no longer just eating on the basis of preference. I'm eating to make the body strong, you see, so that I can do something with the body that is a higher goal and ambition. You see my point? Right? Yes, I'm still eating what I like, yes, but I'm eating this to produce energy in the body to do something beyond just the limitations of my likes and dislikes. Perhaps not a good example would be like if a real low example, and I'm going to give a couple examples, but I wanted to give a lower example because the lower I go, the more you can relate. I have to be careful. I don't go over your heads, right? So let's say in the case of my dveshas, my dislikes, okay? Now, I might not like going to work early in the morning at 5 o'clock, you know what I mean, and working on this job. And I can't stand my boss, I can't stand none of the people I'm working with, right? But I can quit that job and get a better job so that I don't kill nobody. That's not exactly, you know what I mean? Right? To avoid killing somebody, you see, to restrain. There's more restraint coming in, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I'm able to restrain a little bit better, But now let me put it in a spiritual context here, because that's what I intend when I use the word bhakti. It's like, okay, my sakama kama can be elevated to niskama kama with the inclusion of some degree of bhakti for the divine. So now I eat food, right? I make money. I do all of those things, but I'm doing them so that I could be in a better position to do devotion. I'm not just eating for eating's sake anymore. I'm eating to have energy to do something with my body that is higher. You follow me? Whereas before I was just eating shit just to pig out, you know what I mean? And gratify myself. But now I eat food, you see. This is when you begin to dedicate your actions to the divine. This becomes devotion. I'm beginning to kind of do all of these things here, but with devotion for a higher purpose. You see. Now these are not good examples. We'll get better as time goes on. But that's another level of karma yoga. You follow what I'm saying? And then we also know that the doing goodness for goodness sake, right? And so forth and so on. And it goes on and it goes on. And there's a deepen and deepen and deepen. You get more and more bhakti, you see. Ultimately, though, you begin to, at the highest levels, you begin to not even consider your action your own. You almost begin to see what you've been calling my actions is God's grace. You know, so it gets deeper and deeper. We're going to get into a little bit of that in the Ashtavakra Gita, right? So I'm not going to go too much further with that line, but Rasi, I wanted to give you some sense of how, you know, there is that evolution. There is that evolution. How you interact with the world is largely based upon your understanding of some of the things we were talking about earlier. So if I see the world process and phenomena as just in appearance like a snake in a rope, I'm not going to be running. I'm neither going to be clinging or avoiding. Right? That's samma. See, ultimately, samma at its highest level is when there's no more clinging and there's no avoiding either. You see, not. The language in Ashtavakra Gita would say no acceptance and no rejection. You're not clinging or you're not avoiding anything, because none of that is ultimately real. So it's not my concern. You follow me? You become unconcerned with all of this. Not indifferent, unconcerned. You're unconcerned with it. That's Sama. You see. Understanding that none of this has anything to do with me. Sama. Peace. None of this is ultimately independently real of me. I love one of the lines we'll come across in Ashtavakra Gita, somewhere down, I don't know, 17th chapter, where Ashtavakra and Janaka is going deep, 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 deep into this thing. And Ashtavakra is telling them, you know, that there's a kind of sama, a degree of sama, Rahasya, that is so profound that the enlightened man and woman, they won't even bother to open their eyes to look at it. You know, it's not even worth looking at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Huh? That's deep. Don't even bother to look at it. If you see Vishnu in the Trinity of in the Hindus, Brahm, Vishnu, Shiva, and you see Vishnu is represented, he's on a couch, right, stretched out. You see some yogis sit like that, those are Vaishnavas. You know, they sit like Lord Krishna. I mean, he's like laying down. You see the Buddha died like that, right? And you see, and every now and then, Vishnu open, say every time he opened his eyes, a kappa goes by. Just a kappa. You know, kappa is a infinite expanse of time that the creation exists before it goes into dissolution. Some of you will be a natural Vaishnava. Clock goes off, shit. But that's the point, is that it is a state of dispassion. To the point. This is not even worth bothering with. It's an illusion. And just like you don't run and grab your bathing suit to go jump in a pool of water in the desert because you know it's a mirage. It's a mirage. You don't try to swim in mirage water. You see? It's mirage, appearance, Maya. So, more and more and more, you see. Maybe we would love to see you all get a Kula group, a Sama Kula group, a Dhamma Kula group, a Ticha Kula group, you know, and then where you all can mananam deeply into them, and then just rotate into these groups. As you finish Sama, go through Dhamma. As you finish Dhamma, now go, you know, have specialists, you see. But nevertheless, you see, you need to begin to mananam all of this. Somebody else has something to say?
Got it.
All this. We got 10 minutes or so here. Start wrapping.
Well, they're gonna lock the door in 10 minutes.
They're gonna lock the door.
We gotta have time to get out.
One last question. Anybody got a last question? No? All right. That's it.
Is that one you got you on?
Let's have our prasad quickly. Very quickly.
Thank you for the DVD.
And that's the one that reference